Hello and welcome to 18 WJTS Inform. I'm your host, Bill Potter. Joining me are two gentlemen with the Dubois County Community Foundation. One we already know because he's been on the show often, Clayton Boyles. Also joining us is this year's Dubois County Community Foundation intern, and that is Tanner Egbert. Tanner, welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. I'll give a little bit brief introduction about myself.
Okay.
As you mentioned, my name is Tanner Egbert. I am the Community Relations intern with the Community Foundation. It's an internship funded by the Lilly Endowment, so I'm super grateful to have that opportunity. I've lived in Jasper for 22 years now, so that's been awesome. I am...
Where you go, school?
Yeah, sorry. I graduated from Jasper High School in 2017. This coming fall, I will be a senior at Indiana University. I'm studying public financial management, so we're kind of seeing some schedules changing with everything going on, so I'm still shifting with that on a day-to-day basis. That's about myself.
What brought you to the Dubois County Community Foundation? What drew you in?
I think having the opportunity to work with an organization that's so involved with our community was one of the more interesting parts that really brought me in. I think another facet to that was just getting to meet the staff. Everyone was so friendly and welcoming, and brought me in and made me feel like home. So that was one thing that really intrigued me with the organization. I also would like to say I'm just grateful to have the opportunity for an internship. A lot of my peers had theirs canceled with the virus and everything going on. So I'm just super grateful to have had this opportunity. And I think the foundation sticking firm with the internship shows a lot about the way the organization is. So.
I'm sure you knew a little bit about the Community Foundation before you got involved as an intern, but I bet now as an intern you're going, wow, did not realize how much the Community Foundation does.
And it's been a super, I think, great time to really come in and see just, we're really facing unprecedented times, so getting to see the way the foundation has, responded to this whole situation has really been beneficial, and it's something I'm super grateful for, an experience I'll for sure never forget.
Well, you came in at an interesting time indeed. These are interesting times, and thanks to the work that the Community Foundation is doing, there are a lot of organizations that are able to survive that may not have been able to make it through this because of the Community Foundation. And Clayton, let's talk a little bit about some of the COVID-19 responses or response that you've had.
Sure will. So late March, we started a COVID-19 response fund. The work that we do at the Community Foundation is because of viewers like you, if you want to say, but really donors in our community who care about Dubois County. And so the first $100,000 that the Community Foundation deployed was from our Fund for Dubois County, which is made up of individual and business endowments that have said, I love the Dubois County, I want a lot of things to benefit from these grant dollars. And so we as an organization are able to deploy them through our grants committee that chooses where to support. And so the first $100,000 came that way. But Lilly Endowment, which Tanner said has an internship paid for, by the way, through Lilly Endowment this summer, they also do other things, just amazing things within our full state. And they deployed dollars through United Ways, and in counties that didn't have a United Way, such as Dubois County, deployed it through the Community Foundation. Each county was allotted a certain dollar amount based off population size. Ours was $250,000 that we were also able to deploy for COVID response. Nothing but it had to be for COVID response or COVID serving organizations or ones being impacted by. And so we were able to deploy a little over $350,000 really since March. We ended up, we're exhausted of our funds now. But we feel that we have connected with quite a few different pockets within our community, serving those that were at need, who asked and applied and connected with us. So that's really been a really interesting time, but certainly a rewarding time to be able to give back in that way.
Could you give me a few examples so people have an idea? Well, what's he talking about? Who got helped?
Sure.
And really, let's put it this way: everybody got helped. If you live in this community, you got helped.
In a way, I think that's true. Definitely, if you have a child in the school system, which was probably one of our largest grants. It was our largest grant. We granted $87,000 to our 4 public schools systems, so Southwest, Southeast, Northeast, and Greater Jasper. We connected, and I think it's really important to say how wonderful our administrators have done coming together, and also we have included granting to Holy Trinity Catholic School as well. So call it 5 systems coming together really to say, how are we going to do this in a safe, effective manner that's going to be structured the same, so where we're not all guessing how everybody else is doing it. But a grant to the school system was really important for us because we care about education, we care about kids, but we also care about families. And a functional family has children going to school at the appropriate time. They have childcare when needed, and childcare, especially in early years, schools almost act as a childcare for parents whenever they're working. And so, for parents to be able to have the peace of mind to be able to go back to work and not worry about their child's summer needs and where they're going to be when school starts back up, really, really important factor that I think our grants committee and advisory committee made when supporting our schools. Another one was to Memorial Hospital. We supported them in a first round of granting for UV light boxes and some LED or some lights that were for cleansing and sanitizing. They have about 32 offices throughout their footprint, like physicians' offices, and we were able to supply each physician office with a UV light box, which can be used in COVID time, but it also will be used sustainably into the future for other things, such as sanitizing their stethoscope or other doctor's tools or cell phones, car keys, whatever it may be, can be put through this, and it's a very quick process, and so equipped every physician's office with that. I think the last one to share is a grant to TRICAP. TRICAP serves 3 counties, including Dubois, and so remote technology has been on their docket for many years to be able to really beef that up. And with COVID, it was certainly a very intense need that they had since March. And so supporting them with a new server and a new network system that allows all of their workers to be able to still provide service in a time where they may be working remotely, work at home, some in the office, a very fractured workforce that is just different places, being able to connect, still provide service to the community, especially a vulnerable population. Really, really important. So those are a couple. I would say overall we supported probably 15 to 20 different organizations in a pretty large way. It was not super small grants in a lot of them. A lot of them were pretty sizable grants that were able to do some hopefully some really impactful things to be able to get them just right-sized right now until we can get through some of this COVID.
And they may be impactful now, but they really will be impactful as the future goes forward, because it's if they can sustain what they need to do now, then they can continue their work into the future.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point to bring up, Bill. This response fund, the Community Foundation has always granted dollars to the community via a grant application for a project or a program or to support their organization. We want to get desperately back to that realm of thinking sooner rather than later. Not to ignore COVID, but we feel that for the last 5 months we have been able to deploy the right resources, the right time to the right partner to be able to make a solid grant, to be able to help them just remain steady. But each organization, each nonprofit, each school, each government entity, even a for-profit business like yours, have had time now to say, what do we do to change our practice to stay relevant, to be able to bring in a revenue stream, to be able to still pay bills, to be able to have a donor base, to be able to provide service in maybe still of a weird time, because we don't know when COVID's going to go away. But what funders across the nation are talking about pretty much on the same basis is there's not going to be a lot of more relief funding. There's going to be, let's continue on your organization for relevant things that are going on in your world, but it's not going to just be, here's a grant, no questions asked, because I think people have had the time including our organization, to start thinking about what if this continues? How will we change our practices and challenge ourselves to think differently in order to still be relevant in our community? So something to think about longer term. But the Community Foundation grant application process is still open for competitive grants. They're not going to be COVID-related grant applications, but they are going to be our regular grant application is always open, but we have exhausted our COVID-19 response fund and just hope that we can continue to partner with organizations that are continuing to make a great impact in Dubois County.
And you do this because you get endowments.
Yep.
And you have 2 new endowments.
Yeah, I'd highlight a couple endowments. You want to take the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've had several endowments that have been set up this year. One of our more recent ones was the Carol A. Gasser Memorial Endowment. It's in memory of a former local teacher, Carol A. Gasser. The endowment will support Pine Ridge Elementary through a yearly grant, and that's going to be made to mainly impact education. Mrs. Gasser was a retired teacher at St. Anthony and Pine Ridge Elementary Schools. She was a dedicated volunteer in the community and a passionate educator. So although Mrs. Gasser passed in December, this endowment is going to be able to continue to make a difference in the lives of the students, and that's one of the things she was truly passionate about. So it's just super cool to be able to see people leave a lasting impact like that.
Yeah, pretty neat. The other one to talk about is the Ferdinand Veterans Memorial Endowment, and you drive to Ferdinand still every day?
Not every day, but every now and then.
Every day,
Yes.
every now and then. You're seeing that on the left as you're approaching Ferdinand from the junction there. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. The Ferdinand American Legion Post 124 was the lead on that project, and talk about community support, and all contributions came from donor base from the community members saying, hey, this is important. It's a veterans memorial that was erected and established and has been now in existence for, I guess, over a year now. But they wanted to protect it. They wanted to make sure it's here forever. It's honoring all 4 branches of our military. Has a flag flying high, and it's supposed to be there forever. And so one of the ways that they can make sure it's there forever is by building an endowment to help sustain it. And so the Ferdinand Veterans Memorial Endowment was established. It's going to support the town, who will make sure that it's upkept and maintained for long term. That's a really important thing to the American Legion Post 124, that something that they built is not going to be neglected long term, and by building an endowment and having grant dollars available every year makes it that we can have that resource available to maintain it and keep it up.
Great examples of how you can establish an endowment for something specific if you'd like, but also remember you can give it to the Community Foundation to just be in general that you can use for whatever you need to do.
Yeah, amazing how donors come in. They have a passion and we stick to it, and that's exactly what we do. Other donors come in and say, I just want to give back, and I don't know exactly how I want to do that. Others have a few in the mind of what they want to do, and we just talk through it, but it just starts with a conversation. You can come to our office at any time. We can either schedule an appointment, call ahead, email me, or just walk in. We'll sit down with you and just discuss. It's not a hard-nosed sales pitch, and I'm not calling you back unless you want to be called back. Young to old, come in. Somebody that's rattling a couple nickels in their pocket or stuffed full of cash, it doesn't matter. So little dollars to a lot of dollars. The deciphering difference between all those people is that they have a passion, they have a care, and they love our community and want to make sure that it's protected long term. That's the common denominator, I believe.
Well, thanks for your forward thinking in this time of need here. Dubois County Community Foundation is always in existence, and really, like you mentioned, and it's hard for me to keep this in mind because I go back old school to where it was, once a year you did your grants. Now you do grants all year round. Yep. So if you're part of an organization that is thinking of needing a grant, contact the Community Foundation. Right. But especially if you're somebody that has some money, would like to help them out, please contact them that way as well.
Awesome.
Well, Clayton, thank you very much for
Thank
being
you,
our
Bill.
guest. And Tanner Egbert, good luck with your the remaining time as an intern with the Dubois County Community Foundation. Glad to have you on today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching 18 WJTS. We are local people watching local people.